Every cell has a cell membrane surrounding the cell. Cell membranes are also referred to as plasma membranes. So if you remember the cells that you've looked at so far, the onion cells, cheek cells, and bacterial cells all have a cell membrane. It's one thing, it's one feature that's common to all cells. And cell membranes play a vital role in the life of cells. The membrane separates the cytoplasm from the cell's surroundings. The cell surface also transports substances into and out of the cell. The cell membrane also receives and responds to external stimuli, so it's a very important structure in a cell, particularly in the transport and regulation of substances coming into and out of the cell. Inside of a eukaryotic cell, there are membranes that enclose the organelles. So there is a cell membrane that surrounds the cell itself, but then there's also a membrane which is made of a very similar structure surrounding membrane-bound organelles. The cell membrane is composed of phospholipids, which are organic molecules that resemble triglycerides, which, if you remember, is a type of lipid. So in a triglyceride, 3 fatty acids attach to a glycerol molecule. This makes it a triglyceride. But in a phospholipid, glycerol bonds only to 2 fatty acids, and the 3rd carbon in the glycerol binds to a phosphate group attached to additional atoms, and this makes it a phospholipid. Phospho for the phosphate group that is it attached to. Looking at a phospholipid molecule in detail, you'll see that there is a glycerol molecule containing 1, 2, 3 carbons together. 2 of those carbons are joined to 2 fatty acids. And the 3rd carbon in your glycerol is joined to a phosphate, represented by this yellow molecule here, which is then attached to a larger hydrocarbon. When you're referring to this molecule, they talk about the glycerol and phospholipid as the head of the molecule, and the fatty acids as the tail. The most common way this molecule is represented is in an image like this one over here, where the green is your head of the molecule and the 1, 2 fatty acids is your tail. And this is the way you'll find it represented in most textbooks. This chemical structure gives phospholipids unusual properties in water. The phosphate head end is attracted to water, and another term for this is hydrophilic. Hydro meaning water, and philic meaning attracted to. The tail, which consists of 2 fatty acids, is hydrophobic. Hydro again for water, and phobic meaning to repel water. This is very important because it means when you expose phospholipids to water, they spontaneously arrange themselves into 2 layers, one on top of the other, where the hydrophilic heads of the phospholipids are exposed to the water and the hydrophobic tails arrange themselves pointing away from water. This means that in cell membranes, that the hydrophilic heads are exposed to the watery medium outside and inside of the cell, and the hydrophobic tails face each other on the inside of the membrane. And this organization is referred to as the phospholipid bilayer, because there are, of course, two layers of lipids. So we know that we have water on the outside of the cell, and we know that the cytoplasm contains a watery fluid. You can see here that the phospholipids have arranged themselves so that the hydrophilic heads are face the outside and the inside of the cell, whereas the hydrophobic tails both face the inside of the cell. And this is how they arrange themselves into something called the phospholipid bilayer. In cells, a sphere of phospholipids forms the basis of the cell membrane. So if you were to take lots and lots of phospholipids and put them into water, you can see how this structure would eventually form a ball, which is the basis of your cell membrane.